They told us Canada couldn't survive without American trade, that if Trump raised tariffs, our economy would collapse, that we'd have no choice but to surrender. Well, let me show you what actually happened. August 1st, 2025, Trump raises tariffs to 35% on Canadian goods not covered by CUSMA. His letter to Carney warned, if Canada raises tariffs in response, America will add that percentage on top, a threat meant to force Canada into submission. 21 days later, Mark Carney stood at a podium and did something Trump didn't expect. And the 6 words he used, they changed the entire negotiation. But to understand why those words mattered, you need to see what happened in the 3 weeks between Trump's ultimatum and Carney's response. If you want to understand Canada's position in this trade war before anyone else, subscribe and hit the bell. Let me take you back to that moment. July 10th, 2025. A letter arrives from the White House. Trump's exact words, if for any reason you decide to raise your tariffs, then whatever the number you choose to raise them by will be added onto the 35% that we charge. Think about what that means. Canada raises tariffs by 10%, Trump adds another 10% on top. Canada matches the 35, Trump goes to 70. It's designed to be a trap. Respond and get punished, stay silent, and surrender. And the reason he gave? Fentanyl. Despite Canada accounting for only 1% of US fentanyl imports. 1%. Now here's what this looked like for regular Canadians. 75% of our exports go to the United States. 20% of our entire GDP depends on that trade. Economists estimated the tariff cycle had already cost Canadian households between $1,700 and $2,000 per year. Jobs in Hamilton, Oshawa, Windsor, all at risk. The opposition called for immediate surrender. Capitulate, they said. Negotiate from weakness. One union leader said Carney was walking back counter tariffs, like an olive branch. But here's the part nobody saw coming. Carney wasn't backing down, he was repositioning. There's a phrase in hockey that Carney used at his press conference, and when you hear it, you'll understand exactly what he was doing. But first, let me show you the card he was holding that Trump didn't know about. August 22nd, 2025. Carney steps up to the microphones. The world expects him to either escalate or surrender. He does neither. Instead, he announces Canada will match the American exemption, goods covered under CUSMA. The free trade agreement that Trump himself signed in his first term will remain tariff-free on both sides. That's 85% of all Canada-US trade. Untouched. Then he says 6 words that reframed the entire negotiation. You drop the gloves in the first period. Think about what that means. In hockey, you fight early to set the tone. But late in the game, when you're winning on the scoreboard, dropping gloves gets you a penalty that costs you the game. Carney was saying, we don't need to escalate anymore. We're already winning. And here's why he could say that. Under the CUSMA exemption, Canada's average tariff rate from America is 5.6%, the lowest of any U.S. trading partner. The lowest. While Trump is charging China 60% and threatening Europe with 50%, Canada secured the best deal on the table. But Carney didn't stop there. He kept tariffs on steel, aluminum, and automobiles, the sectors where Trump refused to provide CUSMA exemptions. Dollar for dollar matching. Every penny raised goes directly to Canadian auto workers. Rapid fire. Canada filed complaints with the World Trade Organization, created a large enterprise tariff loan facility for struggling businesses, announced a Buy Canadian procurement policy, deferred corporate tax payments to give businesses $40 billion in liquidity. And then the counterpunch nobody expected. February 2026. A U.S. court ruled Trump's IEEPA tariffs illegal. The 35% rate struck down, replaced with a 10% global tariff that applies to everyone. But CUSMA goods remain exempt. You know what that means? The tariff rate Trump used as his hammer just got cut by more than 2/3, and Canada's preferential access remains intact. Canada currently has the best trade deal with the United States, Carney said. While it's different from what we had before, it is still better than that of any other country. That's not spin. That's math. Let's look at where things stand right now. March 2026. Trade negotiations have restarted. The 35% tariff is gone, replaced by a 10% rate that doesn't apply to CUSMA-compliant goods. 85% of Canada-US trade flows tariff-free. And here's the contrast that tells the whole story. 1 year ago, Trump was calling our Prime Minister a governor, threatening annexation, saying Canada lives because of the United States. Today, he calls Carney a big step up as a leader, describes their conversation as extremely productive, and for the first time since this trade war began, refers to him as the Prime Minister of Canada. That's not a coincidence. That's leverage working. Now, here's why this position holds. The USMCA review happens in July 2026. Trump needs that agreement. It's his signature trade deal from his first term. Walking away from it would hurt American farmers, manufacturers, and automakers who depend on Canadian supply chains. GM alone is projecting $3 to $4 billion in tariff costs this year. Canada's counter tariffs on steel and aluminum remain in place. $15.6 billion worth of pressure that doesn't lift until America moves first. The Buy Canadian policy redirects government procurement away from American suppliers. And every Canadian province, from Ontario, removing American alcohol from LCBO shelves, to Nova Scotia doubling tolls on US commercial vehicles, has joined the pressure campaign. Think about that. A coordinated national response, federal, provincial, territorial, united against economic coercion. We are building Canada strong, Carney said. The federal government, provinces, and territories are making significant progress in building one Canadian economy. That's not rhetoric. That's a country that found its spine. If this breakdown helped you understand what's actually happening in Canada-US trade, hit that like button. Let's make sure more Canadians see this. Now what comes next will define this relationship for a generation. The USMCA review is months away. Trade diversification is accelerating. And Trump knows, for the first time, that Canada isn't bluffing. My question for you, do you think Carney should maintain the counter tariffs on steel and aluminum, or is it time to negotiate them away? I want your honest take in the comments. Here's what I see. Trump came into this expecting Canada to fold. He used tariffs as a weapon of intimidation, not just against us, but against Mexico, China, Europe, the entire world. He thought economic pressure would break us. Instead, it united us. Canadians stopped buying American products, provincial governments joined the fight, businesses found new suppliers, and a country that was told it couldn't survive without America, it's building trade relationships across 3 continents. Trump is trying to break us so he can own us, Carney said on election night. That will never, ever happen. 1 year later, the 35% ultimatum is a legal footnote. The threats of annexation are diplomatic noise. And Canada, for all the pressure, all the cost, all the uncertainty, is still standing. Not because we're weak, because we know what we're worth. They called it capitulation. They called it backing down. They called it surrender. What it actually was, a country that learned how to play the long game. If you want to understand how this trade war started, and Trump's exact words about Canada that ignited everything, that full breakdown is right here. I'll see you there.